What happens when a country music legend gets pushed to her breaking point on live television? Today, we're diving into the explosive moment when Reba McEntire reached her limit during a seemingly friendly chat on the Today with Jenna and Friends show. What began as a routine promotional interview quickly devolved into a heated verbal battle, leaving the audience and hosts speechless. The morning started like any other at the Today Show studios. Reba McEntire, the Queen of Country, was there to promote her upcoming tour and new music. She expected the usual softball questions and lighthearted banter. Jenna Bush Hager, filling in as the primary host, opened the interview with a trademark smile. "Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Today with Jenna and Friends," Jenna began. "I'm absolutely thrilled to have country music legend Reba McEntire here with us this morning." Jenna's voice was filled with practiced television enthusiasm. "Reba, thank you so much for joining us. You look absolutely radiant as always." Reba shifted in her chair, sensing a different tone from their pre-interview chat. "Thank you for having me, Jenna. It's always a pleasure to be here with you all. Now, Reba, we definitely want to talk about your incredible new tour and all the exciting projects you have coming up," Jenna said, her expression shifting to what she likely considered serious journalism. "But first, I have to ask you about something that's been making headlines recently." The question hit the studio like a thunderclap. There have been some pretty significant discussions in country music about authenticity and staying true to traditional values, Jenna continued. Some critics have suggested that certain artists, maybe even veterans like yourself, have been compromising their roots for mainstream appeal. How do you respond to that? Reba's smile faltered. This was not the interview she had agreed to. This was an ambush. "I'm sorry, what exactly are you suggesting?" Reba's voice was calm but with a steel edge. "Are you implying that I've somehow betrayed country music?" Jenna, realizing she had stepped into dangerous territory, doubled down. "Oh no, not at all. I'm just curious about your thoughts on the evolution of country music and whether you feel pressured to change with the times. I mean, some of your recent collaborations have been pretty far from your traditional sound." A nervous co-host tried to interject, suggesting they talk about the tour dates instead. But Reba wasn't about to let it slide. With decades of experience, she had faced down critics, record executives, and every kind of controversy imaginable. She wasn't about to be lectured about what constituted authentic country music by someone who had never stepped foot in a recording studio. "Let me get this straight," Reba said, leaning forward. "You invited me here to promote my tour and new music, and instead, you're questioning my integrity as an artist. You're suggesting that I've somehow sold out." "That's not what I said," Jenna protested, but her defensive tone betrayed her. "Meaningful conversation," Reba repeated, her voice rising just enough to command everyone's attention. "Honey, I've been making music since before you were born. I've sold over 56 million albums worldwide. I've won every major award this industry has to offer, and I've stayed true to my roots every single day of my career. So, when you sit there and question my authenticity, you better come with receipts." The tension in the studio was palpable. Producers were frantically whispering into their headsets, and the co-hosts looked like they wanted to disappear. Jenna, clearly flustered, attempted damage control. "Reba, I think there might be a misunderstanding here. I have nothing but respect for your career." "Oh, is that what that was?" Reba shot back, her Oklahoma accent becoming more pronounced. "Because it sounded an awful lot like you were reading from some prepared list of gotcha questions designed to create controversy. Is this what passes for journalism these days?" Reba shot back. The co-host tried again to redirect, suggesting they talk about her new songs, but Reba wasn't finished. Years of being professional and biting her tongue had reached a boiling point. Jenna, her media training kicking in, attempted to salvage the rapidly deteriorating situation. "Reba, I think we're getting off on the wrong foot here," Jenna said. "My questions come from a place of genuine curiosity about the industry you've helped shape." "Genuine curiosity?" Reba's laugh was sharp and humorless. "Honey, I've done thousands of interviews. I know the difference between genuine curiosity and a setup. What I'm curious about is why your producers thought it was a good idea to blindside me with this nonsense when I came here in good faith to talk about my music." The co-host tried to intervene, assuring Reba they were all huge fans and that Jenna was just trying to have a broader conversation about the evolution of country music. Reba's attention turned to him, her tone firm. "I'm happy to discuss the evolution of country music, but there's a difference between discussing evolution and questioning someone's integrity. When you suggest that artists like me have compromised our values for mainstream appeal, you're not just talking about music anymore. You're talking about character." Jenna, refusing to back down, pushed forward. "But surely you can understand why some fans feel that country music has lost some of its edge, some of its authenticity. There are artists today who barely sound country at all." This was the wrong thing to say. Everyone in the studio seemed to know it except Jenna herself. Reba's eyes narrowed. When she spoke, her voice was dangerously quiet. "Are you comparing me to those artists? Because if you are, you clearly haven't done your homework. I've been fighting to preserve the heart and soul of country music, while some of these morning show hosts have been learning how to read a teleprompter." That insult was a physical blow. Jenna's face flushed red and her polished facade cracked. "That's completely uncalled for, Reba. I'm a professional journalist, and I have every right to ask challenging questions." "Professional journalist?" Reba's voice rose as she gestured around the brightly lit studio. "This isn't Meet the Press, sweetheart. This is a morning entertainment show, and I came here to entertain your viewers and talk about my tour. Instead, you're trying to turn this into some kind of gotcha moment for your highlight reel." The other co-host squirmed in her chair, making a desperate attempt to take a commercial break and regroup. But Reba was far from finished. "No, let's keep going. Since we're having such a meaningful conversation about authenticity, let's talk about the authenticity of ambushing a guest with questions that weren't discussed beforehand." Jenna's composure was completely gone. "I don't have to clear my questions with your publicity team. This is journalism, and journalists ask hard questions." "Hard questions?" Reba laughed, with no humor whatsoever. "Honey, you want to ask hard questions? Let's talk about how morning television has dumbed down American culture. Let's talk about how shows like this prioritize manufactured drama over actual content. Let's talk about how you're more interested in creating viral moments than having genuine conversations with your guests." The studio was in chaos. Producers gestured frantically, trying to figure out how to handle the situation. Jenna, realizing she'd bitten off more than she could chew, tried a different approach. "Look, Reba, I clearly touched a nerve here, and that wasn't my intention. Can we start over?" "Start over?" Reba shook her head slowly, her voice filled with disgust. "You don't get to attack someone's professional integrity and then ask for a do-over when they fight back. That's not how the real world works," Reba said, "even if it might be how things work in your little television bubble." The peacemaking co-host tried again. "Reba, we really do respect your career and everything you've accomplished. Maybe we can focus on the positive aspects of your current projects." Reba looked at him as if he had just suggested they discuss the weather. "Respect my career? Your co-host just spent the last 10 minutes implying that I'm a sellout, and you're talking About respect? If this is how you treat guests you respect, I'd hate to see how you treat the ones you don't. Jenna, her face flushed with embarrassment and anger, made one final attempt to assert her authority. Reba, I'm the host of this show, and I have a responsibility to ask the questions that our viewers want answered. That was the final straw. Reba's face went completely cold. Your viewers want answered, she said, every word measured and deliberate. Let me tell you something about viewers, little girl. I've been connecting with audiences longer than you've been alive. I know what people want, and it's not watching some television host with delusions of grandeur try to tear down someone who's actually accomplished something in this world. The silence that followed was deafening. Jenna looked slapped. The co-hosts looked mortified. Reba, still deadly calm, continued, You know what? I came here as a professional courtesy to promote my tour. This show, she gestured with disdain, this is just television. A real show is what I put on for 5,000 people in an arena. A real show is connecting with an audience through genuine emotion and honest storytelling. Jenna scrambled to her feet. You're being incredibly disrespectful. Right now, we invited you here to give you a platform to promote your work. A platform? Reba's laugh was bitter and sharp. I don't need your platform. I've sold more albums than most artists ever dream of. I've had my own television show, my own production company, and I've built an empire based on talent and hard work, not on reading other people's words off a teleprompter. The male co-host stood up, hands raised. Ladies, please, we're live on television. We're live on television? Reba's expression could have melted steel. Well, then let me give your viewers something worth watching. Let me give them a lesson in what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness and professionalism for a pushover. Jenna, emboldened, stepped closer. You think you can come on my show and talk to me like I'm some intern? I've been doing television for years. Years? Reba's eyebrows shot up. Tell me, in all those years of television, did anyone ever teach you the basic courtesy of treating your guests with respect? Or were you too busy learning how to create drama for ratings? The female co-host was practically pleading. Reba, Jenna, please, we can work this out. We're all professionals here. Professionals? Reba scoffed. A professional doesn't ambush a guest with loaded questions. A professional doesn't try to create controversy where none exists. And a professional certainly doesn't sit there and watch while their co-host attacks someone and then call for peace when the person fights back. Jenna's face was crimson. You're acting like a diva, Reba. You're acting like you're too good to answer tough questions. The word diva seemed to unlock something primal in Reba. Her voice became so quiet that everyone had to strain to hear her. Diva. That's what you call a woman who refuses to be disrespected. That's what you call someone who won't let you steamroll them for your own agenda. She took a step closer to Jenna. A diva is someone who shows up prepared, who treats people with respect until they prove they don't deserve it, and who isn't afraid to call out unprofessional behavior when she sees it. A diva is someone who has earned the right to demand basic courtesy through decades of hard work and success. So if that makes me a diva, then I wear that label with pride. Jenna tried to rally. I was just doing my job. Your job? Reba's voice rose again, the fury building. Your job is to entertain and inform your viewers, not to attack your guests for cheap headlines, Reba said, her voice filled with fury. Your job is to create content that adds value to people's lives, not to tear down someone who's actually accomplished something. If this is how you do your job, then maybe you need to find a new line of work. The male co-host made one last desperate attempt. Reba, I think everyone's emotions are running high here. Maybe we should all take a breath. Emotions running high? Reba repeated, sarcasm dripping from her voice. You're damn right, emotions are running high. When someone questions my integrity, my authenticity, and my commitment to my craft, you better believe emotions are going to run high. I've spent 40 years in this business, and I've never once compromised who I am for anyone or anything. Jenna, perhaps sensing she was losing badly, tried to go on the offensive one more time. Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe you're too set in your ways to see how the industry has changed. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Reba's face went completely still, and when she spoke, her voice was terrifyingly controlled. Too set in my ways? She repeated slowly, as if tasting poison. Let me tell you about being set in my ways, little girl. I'm set in the way of treating people with respect. I'm set in the way of honoring my commitments and showing up prepared. I'm set in the way of putting my heart and soul into every song I sing and every performance I give. If those are outdated concepts to you, then we have nothing more to talk about. She began moving toward the edge of the interview area, and panic spread across the faces of everyone involved. This was live television, and their star guest was about to walk off set. Where are you going? Jenna called out, desperation in her voice. We're not finished here. Reba stopped, turning back to give Jenna a look she would remember for the rest of her career. Oh, we're finished, all right? We were finished the moment you decided to turn what should have been a pleasant conversation into an interrogation. We were finished when you chose manufactured drama over basic human decency. The female co-host made a final plea. Reba, please don't leave like this. We can fix this. Fix this? Reba shook her head slowly. Honey, some things can't be fixed. Some bridges, once you burn them, stay burned. And some people, once they show you who they really are, you believe them. With that, Reba McEntire did something that would be replayed for months to come. She unclipped her microphone with deliberate precision and let it drop to the floor with a satisfying thud that echoed through the stunned studio. Reba, wait! The male co-host called out. But she was already moving with a purposeful stride. Her exit was measured, dignified, and absolutely final. Jenna stood frozen, unable to find the words. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every moment of this uncharted territory. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back, the female co-host stammered. But the damage was already done. As she reached the edge of the set, Reba paused to look back at the carnage. You know what's really sad about all this? She said, her voice carrying clearly, even without a microphone. I actually used to respect this show. I used to think it represented something positive in television. But I guess I was wrong about a lot of things. Jenna finally found her voice, though it was strangled and desperate. Reba, you're embarrassing yourself. This is going to be all over the news. Reba's laugh was genuine this time, filled with real amusement at the absurdity of the situation. Embarrassing myself? Honey, the only thing embarrassing here is watching. Grown adults act like children on national television. As for this being all over the news, Reba said, well, at least it'll be honest coverage for once. The male co-host made a final plea. Reba, please just come back and sit down. We can talk this through like adults. Talk this through like adults? Reba shook her head in disbelief. I tried to have an adult conversation. I tried to be professional and courteous despite being ambushed. But, apparently, adult conversation isn't what sells commercial time these days. She turned to face the cameras directly. To anyone out there who supports my music, I want you to know that I will never compromise my values or my integrity for anyone. Not for record labels, not for television networks, and certainly not for morning show hosts who think they can build their careers by tearing down others. The studio was silent. Even Jenna seemed to realize that anything she said at this point would only make things worse. "I've been in this business for 4 decades," Reba continued, speaking directly to the camera. "And I've learned that success isn't just about talent or luck. It's about character. It's about how you treat people. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable." She took one last look around the studio. "I came here today to talk about my music and the things that bring joy to my life. Instead, I got reminded why I prefer the honesty of a concert stage to the manufactured drama of television studios." The female co-host made one last desperate attempt. "Please don't go. We can make this right, Reba." Reba's expression softened slightly, but her resolve remained unchanged. "Sweetheart, some things can't be made right with apologies and do-overs. Some things require accountability and change, and I don't see either of those things happening here today." She began walking toward the exit again, head held high and dignity intact. "This has been real educational," she called over her shoulder. "I hope your viewers got something valuable out of it, because they certainly deserve better than what they witnessed here today." And then she was gone. The cameras kept rolling, capturing the absolute bewilderment on the hosts' faces before someone finally cut to commercial. The silence that followed was deafening. Jenna slumped in her chair, the reality of what had just happened sinking in. She had gone toe-to-toe with one of the most respected figures in country music and had lost spectacularly. "What just happened?" the male co-host whispered. What had happened was simple. Reba McEntire had reminded everyone watching that integrity isn't negotiable, that respect is earned, and that sometimes the most professional thing you can do is refuse to participate in unprofessional behavior. She had shown that even in the carefully controlled world of morning television, authentic human dignity could still triumph over manufactured controversy.